Recently, principals have stated that they would like to decide at the building level whether to obtain services from the Central Processing Center for their libraries. The feeling appears to be that they could use the funds that they have in other ways if the school library media specialist took on the task of processing their own materials. School library media specialists, however, feel that if they have to take on these tasks, they won't have enough time for their other programs. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of moving to site-based management and the advantages of continuing with a centralized cataloging system like we currently have. Because budget concerns are at the forefront of our minds right now, I'd like to shift our focus for a few minutes to the school library by sharing what Laura Bush said in July of 2002 at the White House Conference on School Libraries. She said school libraries help teachers teach and children learn. Children and teachers need library resources, especially books, and the expertise of a librarian to succeed. Books, information technology, and school librarians who are a part of the school's professional team are basic ingredients for student achievement. I'm hoping that we can keep this in mind as we look at the pros and cons of both approaches and make decisions about the future of our libraries. Currently, our centralized library media center has 7 employees. 2 are catalogers, 3 are processing aides, and there's a secretary and a van driver. The van driver is responsible for transporting materials, interloan library services, including those between all of our buildings and the public libraries. So therefore, the public libraries pay 60% of the driver's salary. Our school librarians are critical to our information technology programs. Currently, they have time to perform a number of roles regarding information technology. They promote the school's information technology resources. Probably the most important thing is that they're the link between the students and the teachers and these information resources. They introduce and model new technologies. They offer strategies for accessing the information that various people need, teachers and students both. They offer instruction on evaluating information and using it ethically. And these are services that are received by both students and teachers. So the idea being considered today is if shifting from our centralized media center to site-based management of the libraries would be the most beneficial to our schools. Site-based management has a number of definitions and there are a number of ways to approach it, but in general it has to do with assigning authority to the school instead of the central office, and using a group decision-making model that utilizes various stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and other constituents. And it's facilitative rather than directive leadership, meaning there's collaborative decision-making and all the stakeholders are involved in this decision-making. To some, site-based management is a governance reform designed to shift the balance of authority among schools, districts, and the state. And to others, it is a political reform used to broaden the decision-making base so that decisions are made by a large group of people, either within the school or the larger community or both. Not every school and not every district approaches this the same way. Moving to site-based management will require a great deal of research on the most effective ways to do it. There are advantages to site-based management. It offers a shorter time between the acquisition and the cataloging of resources. It eliminates the need to worry about whether the buildings are all in sync with each other. It could require less staffing, although that would mean a larger burden would probably be being placed on the library media specialists at each school. It offers less fragmented documentation of resources that relate to the same topic, meaning sometimes the way things get cataloged in the central processing center is a little bit fragmented, and if a librarian is doing their own documenting, it all can correlate maybe more neatly. It offers educators and communities a say in the decisions about what affects them. It offers more individualized programs. Each school has specific needs, and so those needs can be looked at individually. It streamlines individual library management and makes resources accessible more quickly and more easily. We don't have to wait to get things from the central processing center. But when I was doing my research, I also found disadvantages that other districts have reported. Sometimes decentralization can be used to avoid taking responsibility for bad decisions because blame can be placed on other constituents. It creates a need for simultaneous planning at the district and school level, which doesn't really work with the way we feel that planning should work, where the district comes up with the broad goals and the schools know what the district is expecting. When this sort of planning is happening at the same time, it may not actually mesh correctly. It's difficult to create an equitable formula for dispersing funds so that each school gets the right amount. It requires support from a lot of constituents. It creates a need for quite a bit of professional development and training for the staff, which this then requires funding. An already overwhelmed staff can be resistant to changes like this and more responsibility and decision making that they may not really feel they have time to do well. There's an increased cost to having multiple copies of resources that were previously shared. It can lead to some schools becoming isolated, and some schools may end up with better resources than others. Decentralization has been known to lead to schools removing the library media specialist positions to save money, which is my biggest concern. The library media specialist's time shifts from students to budget matters, another very big concern. It can create a competition for funds within schools, which can harm relationships because people are battling over the money within their own school. Schools become responsible for issues they can't control, such as equipment problems. And then various principal leadership styles differ, and that can affect their budgeting decisions, and maybe things won't happen equitably. Smaller schools appear to tend to gain little from site-based management. Our other option is to maintain the centralized cataloging service the way it is. There are advantages of this, and this is probably the direction I would prefer to go. It offers equal access to all district resources by all the schools, simplifies complicated decision making, saves money by avoiding multiple purchases of the same resources, eliminates the duplication of work. Instead of having all of the school librarians act as clerks, we have a couple of clerks who act as clerks. And it allows clerks rather than the library media specialists to perform routine work. It offers flexible access to the library, which offers collaboration between the librarian and the classroom teachers, gives time for the library media specialist to offer professional development, and allows for regular meetings between the librarian and principal. If the librarian is taking on the tasks that are currently getting done through the central processing center, they're not going to have time for these other things. When asking myself what was the best direction for our district to go, this is what kept coming back to me, that when the library media specialist must use their time to process materials and perform other such duties, they're less available to students and teachers. And really our primary purpose is for our librarians to be available to students and teachers. Sustaining a centralized department would allow for the library media specialist support and involvement in curriculum planning and school and classroom change processes. And that's really what we want them doing. With a centralized cataloging service, librarians are able to concentrate their efforts on services to their schools' instructional programs and services related to students and teachers. I can't say this enough. I just really think that this is a really important point. What do we want our school librarians doing? The library media specialist needs to have time to nurture student interests, integrate technology, help move teachers forward with technology, provide professional development, enhance learning outcomes, and co-plan and co-teach with the teachers. According to ISTE and the SIG Executive Advocacy Committee, cuts to non-classroom teaching positions, such as the library media specialist position, go against all the evidence that has come up in research that indicates that a strong library program staffed by certified school librarians correlates with significantly greater student achievement. And student achievement obviously is our #1 goal. So while there might be some savings by giving students less equitable access to resources and instruction that the literacy specialists and technologists offer, a school that closes their library or staffs them with non-certified personnel loses or offers their students less access to print and electronic resources that are managed professionally. This is a time in history when students really need the skills required to dig through all the complex information that they're offered through technology, and they need the skills to ask the right questions and use information ethically. So in order for them to succeed, they need a school library program that's strong and intact. And I think that maintaining our central services allows the schools individually to continue having strong library programs for their students and teachers. I think it would really be a shame to start burdening our school librarians with tasks that our clerks are currently doing, because I just feel sure that that would take away from what our students and teachers need from our school librarians. If you would like to do further reading on this topic, here are some resources that might be useful. And then here are 2 videos that really illustrate the need for our school library media specialists. The first one is principals talking about the role that their librarians play in their school. And then the second one is just talking about school libraries and their importance in general. Thank you for your time. Please let me know if you have any questions.